What's up, Sam?
What's up, Connor?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Man, let me tell you, I have a good feeling about today's podcast.
Got some good feelings about it as well.
I think it's going to be even better than this week's games from our championship weekend that was.
Man, what a wild weekend, though.
You can't ask for two better football games.
Honestly, I mean, I know people in New Orleans are certainly going to debate that, but
Kansas City too.
Kansas City as well, but yeah, I mean, from a pretty neutral perspective, really didn't have a dog in the fight either way. Didn't really want either of these pairs of teams, any team out of here, to win. I had a lot of fun watching both the games. So yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
From my perspective, at least.
Mine as well. I will concur.
Well, let's talk about it.
Let's get into it.
So starting off, we had the NFC Championship first, the Saints versus the Rams. You want to talk about this national anthem guy, this Joker?
Well, yeah, I don't know. He just did the mic drop at the end of the national anthem.
Cool, what a dude.
Cool thing to do there, white guy, Mr. Old white guy.
Man, what if he dropped the mic and like a bald eagle flew out from behind him? And
well, okay, so that would be fine, but it didn't. It was just the mic drop and only the mic drop.
It'd have been cool if it were during the Chiefs game and it would have been a Chiefs fan who was like singing it, because then they do at the end of the national anthem they do the
"In the home of the Chiefs."
Yes, that'd have been kind of cool. Maybe.
No, don't do the drop though. Do the thing where you take the mic and you point it at the crowd, so they can sing into it.
That from really far away.
Yeah, you know. But
Man.
Yeah, so I literally turned on the TV to flip the game on as like the dude's doing the last phrase of the tune, and it's like, oh, cool, bro.
Mic drop.
Oh, this is a good start. That was a fitting way to start. You know, at a real start the game with that, and then it went up from there. So the rest of the day, other than that, was pretty good. So
yeah, I'd say so. So I guess breaking down this game a little bit, a few surprises here. Namely that there was no real rushing game on either side of the ball. Todd Gurley, he had a pretty rough outing. He had a couple of drop passes, both of which resulted in some pretty severe consequences for LA. One of them lost them a chance at a first down and potentially a touchdown drive. And then the other one cost them an interception, actually. So after the series of events that happened in the first half, Todd Gurley he was pretty much a bench warmer for the rest of the game, and it was CJ Anderson's game. And he didn't do a whole lot with his time on the field either. I think he was able to accrue 44 yards, and he was the overall rushing leader on the day. Between all the running backs that played, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Todd Gurley, CJ Anderson was the man of the hour, if you want to call it that. So that was kind of it wasn't necessarily surprising, I guess, considering both of these defenses are pretty stout. People like Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, Dante Fowler on one side of the ball, and then on the other side, people like Cameron Jordan are definite run stoppers. So it wasn't too surprising, I guess, but it was, I guess you still would expect a little bit more out of one of those guys. Like out of those four would have done a little bit more, but that's just kind of how the game went. It was pretty fast paced. Another thing of note that I was particularly interested in was Aqib Talib playing in this game. So when the Rams and Saints played for the first time this season, Aqib Talib was injured. I think he was still on injured reserve. And in that outing, Michael Thomas was allowed 211 yards receiving and a touchdown. compared to this game where he was allowed 36 yards and no scores.
That's better.
That's
better
way
defense.
better. Yeah, so his presence was certainly felt. The Rams have a ton of playmakers in the defensive secondary, but I think the presence of Aqib Talib mattered a lot in this game. Most of Drew Brees' passes had to go to dump-off passes to Alvin Kamara because the Rams' pass rush was certainly bothering the passing game. I mean, there's just too many people up front. So he had to dump it off to Alvin Kamara a lot, and Alvin Kamara got a lot of attention in the receiving game. I mean, a couple of cool things happened. Johnny Hecker threw a fake punt pass to Sam Shields. That was kind of fun to watch. It's kind of fun to watch Sam Shields make a play. For those of you out there who don't know, he used to be a long-time vet of the Packers secondary, undrafted free agent, and he developed into a centerpiece in the Packers before he was released due to multiple concussions. Yeah, and I'm trying to go in somewhat of a linear path here. I just kind of have fun facts about this game. The crowd noise in New Orleans was crazy. Like you could hear it through the TV for sure. And there were definitely moments on the field where you could see that Jared Goff and the offense, they had to resort to hand signals. They couldn't hear each other. And that was kind of cool to watch as well. Like stadium noise is nothing new in football, and something that I'm certainly used to as well. But watching a game like this with the magnitude, the NFC Championship, is kind of weird. Or it wasn't weird. It was kind of wild. There's the whistle guy. Did you catch any of that on the broadcast at all? These whistles that were coming through.
Are you talking about Whistle Man or all the other people with whistles?
The whistle.
Well,
man.
I guess I caught them both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild on TV watching it, where it was like almost every other play. I'm like, is there a flag? Was there a false start, or someone called timeout or something? Just because before the snap, and I'm hearing whistles and shit. And no, it's just all these people blowing their whistles and shaking their voodoo rattles or whatever they do down there in the bayou. But no, that whistle man, his getup, that's legendary, man.
It's a giant whistle on his head.
Boy, I don't know who wins in a fist fight, Whistle Man or the Packers guy with the Lambeau Field on his head with the icicles coming down his nose.
Oh my God.
Wait, I guess so if we got to pick a Packer guy, it's either him or the guy that dresses up like the Pope when he's Pope Vince.
Yeah, Pope Vince is, I think that guy, he's the winner in a cage match, octagon.
That always confuses me about NFL fans that dress up. Football fans that dress up in religious garb. I get the Saints do it too. Well, I guess the Saints kind of make sense because they're Saints.
It's in the name.
Like nuns or saints. But
right.
People who mix religion and football. But I guess, and answer my own question, football is kind of a second religion for a lot of people in the United States. Actually, so the one that really confuses me, and we saw these guys at a Packers game, is the people that were dressed up like Gene Simmons or other people from Kiss, but like Packer-themed Kiss. Like, what are you doing?
What is this? This isn't...
You're an adult. Stop it.
This isn't the right anime.
Yeah, right.
This doesn't follow the manga. Yeah, I don't know. It was like, what is this crossover? I don't.
Or there's the Packer minion, the big giant minion people that takes pictures with people. That's just 50 Shades of Bad right there.
The spreadable cheese.
No, spreadable cheese. I mean, that's advertising. That is nothing that they're not actually associated with the Packers. So I'm down with the spreadable cheese.
I gotta just plug the spreadable cheese because
the spreadable cheese is cool. The people that dress up like Darth Vader, but they have like a green and gold lightsaber, and is it Darth Vader with a cheese head on? Like, no.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't get it. Getting back to this game though.
Whistle Man, legend of the game.
Whistle Man. Yeah, I don't know, pretty crazy, and I mean, it was pretty electric back and forth. It seemed like both these teams were pretty even matched, and it all sort of culminated here. Well, in this call that's gonna probably go down in infamy, with NFL referees, right up there with like the Dez Bryant catch, the
Fail
Mary,
yep. Tuck rule.
Tuck rule, is this blown pass interference call. So what pretty much happened was,
in case you haven't heard,
just in case that you're out of the loop on this for some reason, Nickeil Roby-Coleman was, I think they were playing man, and his assignment was Alvin Kamara. And when the Saints went into the huddle, he noticed that Tommy Lee Lewis, who's like 5'7" and like 165 pounds, he's like my size. He's pretty small. And he like was in the huddle, but he was kind of like ducking down a little bit. He noticed this. He didn't think anybody else in the defense realized that Tommy Lee Lewis was out there. And so he noticed him and he picked him up as he came out on that wheel route. And as he did that, he wasn't fast enough though. And so the ball, Drew Brees, hucked the ball up to Tommy Lee Lewis. Nickeil Roby-Coleman sort of just came on over and laid this dude out well before the ball arrived. So the ball hits the ground. Refs signal no cat or incomplete pass, and Sean Payton immediately, is out for blood. You see Sean Payton on the sideline; he is just furious. Totally reasonable, because he hit him well before the pass arrived. He admitted after the game that it was, I didn't really realize what I did, but I got back to the huddle and I watched the replay and I was like, yeah, that was pass interference. Like in the heat of the moment, sometimes, especially with slow motion technology that gets replayed, some penalties, I guess, can look a little bit more egregious than they are. However, this was not one of those cases. This was definitely a case of when you watch this thing happen in real time,
it looks
you
even
can
worse.
Definitely. Yeah, it looks so blatant. Like it's so obvious that it's pass interference. He's not looking at the ball at all. He's entirely focused on just laying out Tommy Lee Lewis. So anyway, that happened, and what pretty much was the result of that was instead of getting defensive pass interference, getting first and goal, and having the ability to milk clock and then kick a field goal, leaving, I think they said somewhere around like 13 or 14 seconds on the clock, is what it would have been. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing that and then kicking to the Rams, who would have had to, launch I think they would have gotten a couple plays off, but pretty much a Hail Mary drive. Instead, they had to settle for a field goal, and then the Rams were able to march down the field and then tie the game and force the overtime.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it sucks. But I have a bunch of, it sucks a lot, and it was really blatant, and the NFL acknowledges that it was messed up. I don't know if rules are going to change because of this. It'd be nice for things to be reviewed within the last 2 minutes, but I think somebody on Reddit put it best, but it's man, everybody on here is bitching, and the NFL needs to be held accountable. But man, how many of you guys are going to go and watch the Super Bowl in a couple weeks? Probably all of you. So the NFL doesn't give a shit about being accountable. Yeah, this is bad PR, but what is...
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's dead on. This isn't going to no football fan's going to watch that and be like, oh, they're not going to call that. I am not watching football. Oh, this guy's taking a knee for the anthem. I'm not watching football. Sure. All right. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. We Clearly, that's why I don't think any less people are watching. But so I guess that's a good point. Where what's the incentive what's the real incentive to hold themselves accountable? There's not really an outside motivating force. I mean, they should just do it to do it because for the sake of getting calls right, especially ones that are as obvious and like that and that are as game changing as that one. It'd be nice to be able to have some sort of check and balance to that, or some sort of something. And the whole fact that one argument against, I don't know how many people are actually making this argument, but if you want to review that to make the game longer, I don't care. Make the game as long as you want. That's more, you just want to get the call right. And really, the other opposition to reviewing a subjective call like that, it opens up a whole can of worms. Where that's an obvious one, and that's the whole reason you want it in, is to be able to correct obvious mistakes like that. But if we're reviewing real ticky-tack stuff, or real down the line stuff, whatever, fine. I think as long as you safeguard yourself against the really bad ones like this one, I have no problem living with any other fallout from it. It's really peanuts in comparison.
Right. I mean, really, that's where the problem with some of these like overarching, generalizing, like rule changes that people want right now in the heat of the moment and in the state of kind of emotional fragility. It's like, well, there should be accountability, or there should be a method for reviewing these things to make, which would make the games longer, or these referees should be fired if they mess up too many times, or they should be evaluated by the league. It raises a lot more problems sometimes than solutions for suggesting these changes, just because of what you were saying, where really the problem with these rules isn't in situations like these. Those changes would absolutely help remedy situations like this from happening, where there's an egregious mistake. But in cases where things aren't quite so black and white is where, you don't really want to see somebody lose their job just because, one fan base decided that this was an awful call, but, was it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that whole thing where if you're going to fire a referee, I don't care about that, because that doesn't change anything. That's a reactionary thing that doesn't really, that makes, I don't know, it doesn't make me feel any better. Well, that guy lost his job. Well, okay, well, it didn't change anything about the results of the game.
Right, it doesn't result in any policy change.
Well, he won't be able to do it again. Like, I don't know, whatever. It's not an easy job, so I don't know.
No.
That whole holding referees accountable, I mean, the referees do get reviewed. That does happen. That's how they choose who's working these playoff games like this, Super Bowl assignments and that kind of stuff. They're not just, the NFL's not just throwing these dudes out there and being like, well, I don't know, this guy's been doing it for a while. He probably knows the rules, right?
Right.
Like, they know what the referees, like, God bless them, they know what they're doing, but they're human, and it's, I don't know, the game's fast at field level.
Exactly.
I heard another suggestion, if we're going to dive down this whole rabbit hole of making rule changes, is just to have another guy that's part of the referee crew that's in a box somewhere, and he just has access to all the replays. So you don't even need to review it. He's just up there like, hey, throw the flag on that. This happened and you missed it. Something like that.
Right.
So that's fixed. So you say you don't have to actually review anything and take all the time to do that. You just have a guy that's kind of overseeing everything up top and just correcting big mistakes.
Right. Yeah. Which would allow for, things like this to you still get caught in the net, without creating too much of a mess with, well, do we want to allow this, or, do we want to allow reviews within the last 2 minutes of the game, or, what do we want to do here? I don't know. It's tough. I don't know. I'm sure I'd be reacting differently if this happened to the Packers.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know how I reacted to the Fail Mary. So I get it, but I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just to, really hammer this point in. It was there's a lot of things that happen, a lot of like conditional things that occurred in the game that this pass interference thing is certainly going to be the one that characterizes it, but there are a ton of things that happen that if they go the other way, the game is drastically changed. So a couple of these, it was, the Saints delay of game on the TV broadcast, you can't ever really be sure, but I mean, Ndamukong Suh came up out of his stance and pointed at the clock. So you got to think that, there was probably a missed delay of game, but who's to say? I don't know. Yeah. If that happens, I mean, the Saints get penalized. They get pushed out of field goal range, I think. I'm not really sure what the consequences of that one are. But another one, though, Robert Woods catching that slant totally burned P.J. Williams. And if that, if he doesn't trip and fall and
it's a touchdown.
Land on himself, that's touchdown. I think the Rams definitely settled for a field goal on that drive. This was another big one, was when the Rams were driving for the game-tying field goal, there was a potential missed face mask on Jared Goff. I watched the video. I don't know, man. It's kind of like it.
I think if the face mask.
Yeah. I think if the face mask on Aaron Rodgers against the Detroit Lions was called a face mask, I think this is definitely a face mask.
Sure.
Yeah,
and you can take this whole, yeah,
and
this whole what we're getting at here. I mean, go all the way back to the first quarter where Saints on their first possession, they went right down the field and kicked a field goal, then got that interception and kicked another field goal. If they score a touchdown on either of those, they win the game at the end of the day. So I mean, there's a whole ton of things that led to what ended up being that critical missed call. Things after it, things before it. Which I think is what you're getting at. And I think it was Big Cat who put it best, was, that you have as the Saints have every right to be mad about the missed call, and also there's a ton of other things that led to them not winning that resulted in them not winning the game. It wasn't just the missed call, but it also wasn't not the missed call. Both things contributed. The whole sum of events created the result.
Right, no doubt. I think the best example of that is that Drew Brees threw a pick in overtime.
Ugh. Yeah, it was bad.
So you win the coin toss and you start with the ball in overtime. You have an excellent opportunity to go down and just finish the game. And they didn't. He was knocked down by Dante Fowler. He hucked the ball up in the air, lobbed it up, and it was picked off by John Johnson. So, they had an opportunity to right the ship, and they didn't. So, I don't know. Yeah, it sucks, and I think that assessment's correct, where it contributed to the end result of the game, but I certainly don't think it determined the result of the game.
No.
Nope.
Yep.
So that's kind of what happened.
And then on that game-tying drive where the Rams go down, and they could have made a stop defensively somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly all what happened, but defense could have made a play too and won the game that way. There's the one, that call, obviously, if that happens, then yes, I think they win the game without a doubt. But they had opportunities after the fact and had plenty of opportunities before that to win the game. So that's them's the breaks. That's football.
That's Dallas. All right.
Well, just to circle back to, I think the first thing you brought up, the Todd Gurley, is he's got to be injured or something's got to be up with him, right?
Yeah, I mean, people are certainly speculating what's going on. He doesn't look like himself out there. He's certainly not playing like himself out there. These
it was like the same
whole
thing.
last couple games, really down the stretch after he was injured and taken out, and the Rams were sort of fishing for running backs at the end of the season because everybody kept getting hurt. It really doesn't. He hasn't given me any sort of signs of confidence that he's the people, or the guy that people were claiming to be the MVP of the league at one point this season.
Nah.
I mean, certainly not. I know. Like, looking at it now especially, it's like, yeah, that O-line is doing 90% of the work there.
Yeah,
but he just doesn't look as explosive, and he's not doing Todd Gurley things.
Yeah, even that, he's not even in the game, which is a problem. I mean, sure, there's something to it that C.J. Anderson is relatively fresh, so to speak, since he's only been on the team for a few weeks
legs
and hasn't really played much this year, which I'm sure there's value in that. But I would think with Todd Gurley on that team, you want him in the game more than C.J. Anderson. But I don't know. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks. I mean, it was kind of a similar thing. I felt the same about it that I felt last week or 2 weeks, whenever, in the Dallas game, where it was kind of similar, where C.J. Anderson got more playing time. Again, coming off that injury, who knows? But you get 2 weeks off here before the Super Bowl, so hopefully we'll see more Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley's good.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, C.J. Anderson, definitely putting respect on his name because he's a Pro Bowl running back and he helped the Broncos win a Super Bowl. He's a much different running back than Todd Gurley. He's a very downhill runner, bowling ball shape. He's great for punching the rock through, the huge gaping holes that the Rams offensive line have been providing. Todd Gurley is just a little bit more dynamic. I mean, he is just a little bit. He is an extra dimension to offer in the game as a receiving back, as just a dynamic runner. He's able to make cuts and instinctually play the game with a different perspective than somebody like C.J. Anderson. So it helps that he's also not 5'8" like C.J. Anderson. I'd like to see him, but we'll see, I guess. Some people have been saying that they predict he has like a torn meniscus, which would be no dice.
I don't know.
Yeah, man, I'm not a doctor.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
maybe he had
to contribute.
Maybe he had a tummy ache.
Bad China food.
Maybe he's allergic to his cat. Maybe he had a case of the grumpies. Didn't want to play.
Went up to Sean McVay after the drop pass interception. Sean, can I sit the rest of the game? Sure thing, Todd. Take a seat.
I need to reflect on my performance thus far in this game. I'm having an existential moment here as a player.
He just does what you did at the one of those Packer games where you just pulled up Star Wars 2 Attack of the Clones on one of those Surface Pros.
It's got a bucket of popcorn like T.O. and just really need to think about some things here.
Oh, classic. All right. And I guess I can talk about this now just because this doesn't really need to be talked about later. PJ Williams was arrested today for drunk driving.
Tough week, man.
Somebody pointed this out. How do you get arrested for drunk driving in New Orleans? Like, out of all places, like a place where traffic literally doesn't move because it's just a mess.
I've
and
never
they give
been
you
to New
to-go
Orleans,
cups.
Well, he got a DUI. I think that's different than getting just an open container or public intoxication.
Well, that's the thing. They allow open container in New Orleans. Like, they give you to-go cups and shit so you can drink in the street.
Hell yeah.
Um,
I'd rather not answer that.
oh,
Hello?
Alexa's talking to me.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
No. Well, Jeff Bezos' divorced ass is listening in.
Yeah, dude. He's trying to get a peek at this podcast.
Yo, let me flex on him real quick.
Anyway, yeah, PJ Williams got arrested, and that doesn't bode well for he's a free agent this upcoming season. So, or this upcoming
Yikes.
off season. Yeah, like there's never really like a good time to choose to drunk drive, but it's certainly not a great time to do this right after your contract's up with your team.
Yeah, oops.
Man.
Hold up. Faded.
All right, moving on to the AFC Championship. Patriots versus Chiefs.
Boy, this was a real good game.
This is a solid game.
Heckin' good.
Yeah, in fact, it was crazy. I was actually making dinner when this game was starting, and so I was sort of just getting updates from the living room from Eric, and it was like, oh, Patriots scored a touchdown. No, Patriots scored another touchdown. It's like, oh my God, I thought this would for sure be the other way around, where the Chiefs come out just electric, coursing down the field, and that's not what happened at all in the beginning of the game. The second half, though, is more how I expected the Chiefs to start. When the Chiefs came out in the second half and drove down the field in like 2 seconds, that's kind of what I expected to have happen. So I guess breaking this down, the Patriots had their way with the Chiefs on the ground. So as sort of the contrapositive to this Saints-Rams game where nobody ran for any yards at all, the Patriots ran a lot. And what was the result was they had Sony Michel go off for 29 carries for 113 yards. And there were nearly 50 rushing attempts for the whole team. Rex Burkhead even had a pretty solid game. I don't remember his stats off the top of my head. James White did some pretty solid work as the receiving back, which is his more natural role.
He got a handful of carries, too.
Yeah. You leave it to the Patriots. You got to mix it up. And, I mean, what pretty much that did was it took away the Chiefs' best defensive weapon, and that was their pass rush that comprised of Dee Ford and Justin Houston primarily as their top two pass rushers. So the Patriots relied on this this formula that's worked for them. It worked for them against the Chargers when they were going up against Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. They relied a lot on the short pass game and then the running game as well to kind of build a foundation for their game plan for the rest of the game. And once they were able to do that, I mean, all kinds of other options opened up in the later stages of the game for the Patriots. And they were connecting on these deep routes to Gronk, on these over-the-middle crossing routes to Julian Edelman and Chris Hogan. I mean, it was a problem for the Chiefs' defense against the Patriots here. It's something that I certainly expected. The Patriots are ultra creative on offense. They're able to do some pretty incredible things with the personnel that they have. And frankly, the Chiefs' defense has been pretty lackluster this entire season. We'll get to it a little bit later, but I mean the game certainly had some consequences for Chiefs personnel. So let's see, getting into it a little bit on the other side of the ball. Pat Mahomes, I mean he doesn't visibly struggle a lot, or he didn't visibly struggle a lot this year, but he certainly had his work cut out for him, and it showed this game. The Patriots pass rush got to him a few times. Kyle Van Noy specifically had a pretty solid game. He had both the sacks that the Patriots had on the day and 6 quarterback pressures by himself. So Pat Mahomes was having to be more athletic than he had to for these last couple of games, I think. Dip out of the pocket and make some off-schedule throws because the Patriots were absolutely blanketing Tyreek Hill, his number one receiver. So he had to go to some alternative options, and that resulted in things like Sammy Watkins having a 100-plus yard game. I think he was the leading receiver for the Chiefs, actually, because I think the Patriots really game planned for Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Can't really blame them. Damian Williams, though, also had a pretty solid game. He played the role of the receiving back. He was the primary running back for the Chiefs. He has been since Spencer Ware, I think, was taken out by injury and Kareem Hunt, did Kareem Hunt things. And he was a solid contributor in the short pass game and as a runner, I guess, for the Chiefs. Yeah, it's kind of what happened. You want to talk about Tony Romo? Or you want to provide any analysis for this game yourself?
Yes, I would like to analyze.
Okay.
No, I don't know. The Chiefs' defense. I guess on a macro level, let's put it this way.
Sorry, just talk for like a little while.
I'll vamp. On a macro level, if you take the game as a whole, the lasting image I have is when the Chiefs had the ball. It was Patrick Mahomes under constant pressure, like Connor was just saying, with Kyle Van Noy and leading the way there, and Tom Brady standing tall in the pocket, not having a ton of pass rush. I don't believe that the Chiefs had any sacks. Obviously Patrick Mahomes got sacked a handful of times and was under constant pressure, and part of that might be offensive play design. Obviously, when you have rocket arm Patrick Mahomes, you have the ability. He has the arm talent to throw the ball deep, and you have probably one of the best deep ball receivers and the fastest guy in the league in Tyreek Hill. So, yeah, obviously it makes sense. We're going to probably try and attack downfield more, which takes longer to happen, so you're more susceptible to pass rush. Whereas the Patriots passing game is almost completely opposite, where they're not throwing the ball deep almost ever. It's these 10 to 15 yard intermediate routes and checkdowns to running backs, which we're extremely effective at doing. And the one thing, that overtime drive where they had 3 3rd and 10s when the Patriots had the ball, and every 3rd and 10 they converted with either was shallow post or slant to Julian Edelman over the middle, or throwing it up top to Gronk on the outside one-on-one. I mean, the Chiefs were running that man-to-man defense that whole game pretty much, it seemed like. They're probably in zone a handful of times. But, I mean, man, the Chiefs' defense, for as bad as everybody thinks they are, they were close. They were close. All those plays, no one was running wide open. I mean, the guys were there. It was just, the receiver had a step on you, and then Tom Brady just throwing dimes. It's okay defense, I'd say, and then just better offense. So, I mean, that execution on that last drive was absolutely was perfect. They went right down the field. So, as Connor alluded to, Bob Sutton was fired, defensive coordinator, finished 31st in the league. If they just have an average defense and get one stop in that fourth, well, I shouldn't say one stop. I think they did get a stop or two. But if they, can make a stop at some one point and not let them just run rampant, I mean, this team is ridiculous if they have an average defense. So it'll be interesting to see Steve Spagnuolo, former Rams head coach, and he's been defensive coordinator for a couple of different teams. Is rumored to be the favorite to get that defensive coordinator job. I don't know. It's a name that I know, so maybe that'll make the Chiefs' defense better. Can't be much worse, but I think they have pieces on that team where that defense can be improved upon. Also, they benefit from the fact that they can't get much worse, so nowhere to go but up.
No doubt. I mean, I guess something that somebody on one of these forums was talking about, if Dee Ford doesn't line up offsides on that play,
oh my God,
Bob Sutton very well might still have a job.
Well, he'd have a job for at least 2 weeks. I think he's
right.
I mean, if it was up to me, I'd fire. He was gone no matter what. No matter if they won the Super Bowl or not. you got to be better on defense.
Yeah, I mean, you can't finish 31st overall in defense and expect to keep your job. But it's, I agree. I don't know if he would have had any sort of security after the Super Bowl.
I'd say no.
Right. A reasonable person would say no. But
Reason will prevail.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating, really. It's frustrating watching a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who have an offense that's so much fun to watch, but a defense that they were downright abysmal in some of their games. Like, watching, I don't know if you saw, there were a couple clips from earlier in the season when Eric Berry came back and he was playing back there at safety. He was dragging DBs around and telling them where to go, yelling at them because they weren't lining up in the right spots.
Yeah, it's no good.
Yeah, that's like what it was not early in the season. Like, it was after Eric Berry came back from injury. So it was pretty late in the season, and it's like, if you guys are still having these problems, that speaks volumes, I think, about how exactly you're coordinating your defense.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw the same thing, not this year, year before with the Packers. They were pretty much doing the same thing where the ball's getting snapped and linebackers facing the wrong way, not knowing what the hell they're supposed to be doing.
Oh my God.
It's hard enough as it is to play defense when you know what you're doing, but if you're just going out there and you don't even know how to line up or what coverage you're in or whatever, you have no chance.
No, the way that offenses, really any offense, any competent offense, it doesn't have to be like a Sean McVay high caliber electric offense. Like, you're going to get shredded.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited too for the Chiefs to get a real defensive coordinator, just because they can be a contender for AFC titles in the future. I think they have a lot of pieces, like you said. They just need somebody who's going to tell the players what to do. Mm-hmm. Don't play like you're going to play man the whole game against the Patriots. Like, good luck. I don't know.
You got to mix it up, and you have to pass rush, and I don't specifically remember, but it didn't feel like they were blitzing a lot.
I think they only brought like 4 blitzes the whole game, they said.
Which is also, the Patriots blueprint that's been out forever is you got to generate a pass rush with your front 4, which they didn't really do because I don't think they had any sacks. But also they're getting shredded on the back end. You got to do something. If you just want to die a slow death, that's what the Chargers did. They just sat back and played zone. That didn't work. And then the Chiefs just sat back and played man. So neither of those work because neither were able to generate a pass rush. Granted, it's difficult because the Patriots passing game is relatively it's a quicker passing game. They're throwing shorter. They're throwing balls down to the running backs, throwing short slants and whatever to receivers, generally speaking. So you have no time to generate a pass rush. But you got to do something. You can't just not generate a pass rush with your front 4 and then just play man and be like, well, this is what we have to do. Variety is the spice of life, right? You gotta mix it up a little bit. Got to mix the medicine here. If Tom Brady knows exactly what you're going to do every single snap, he's never going to be wrong. And granted, it's I don't know. It's hard to confuse him. It's hard to surprise him because he's been around for 20 years. But you got to try, right?
Right. You've got to be more dynamic than that. You have to change something in your game plan if it's not working, especially against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, because the minute that they figure out that something works, they're going to exploit the shit out of it. Mm-hmm. And we saw that. We saw that they figured out that Dee Ford and Justin Houston are the only people that are effective at rushing the passer. So if they just remove those 2 pieces of the puzzle, they can kind of have their way with the defense. And it's kind of interesting to watch this happen because the Patriots effectively don't really have like a deep threat. Like, after Josh Gordon was suspended again, or he quit, there's really nobody on that team that's got blazing speed to rocket down the field. Like you've got Julian Edelman. He's a competent
Phillip Dorsett,
receiver.
Who, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, he's a name.
Apparently
for
he's
sure.
fast.
Yeah,
Apparently he's
and
fast.
he
And
was
he caught a touchdown, but he's not a consistent producer.
No. He's just a guy. He's another piece of the Patriots puzzle. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. It's weird. It's interesting. It's cool to watch what they're able to do and how quickly the Patriots are able to manipulate the game plan. And with this personnel that just fits what they do. Like they're just very dynamic. Like all the people that play in that offense just adjust very well to what's going on. And with people like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick who have just been doing this for as long as they have, and they've been able to sustain success that's almost unprecedented in the NFL. I mean, right, you got to do something. You got to try something else. Like you pointed out the Chargers sticking in zone and the Chiefs just sticking in man, and it's it's no way to do it. You're never going to beat them that way.
Yeah, you can't just call the same play. I mean, but it's what you do on offense too. You don't just sit back and call the same play on offense every single play.
Right.
I'm sure that's oversimplifying it, saying they're just playing man coverage. I'm sure they were doing some sort of variations, but I mean, by and large, it looks the same, and the results are the same.
Right. Exactly.
So,
I guess the last thing I want to talk about with this game is that Tony Romo was just making these calls that
oh man,
is wild. There's like a compilation clip, I think, on NFL, the Instagram or something, one of these social media outlets. It was like 6 times in a row in the second half. He just, if the safety comes down, you can be sure that they're going to Gronk, or you can see if they motion here and he's killing the play. That means they're going to try to run it to the right outside.
Yeah. They got the running back and Gronk in the game. Oh, they're going to chip on D4. They're going to chip on the other side on Justin Houston. They're going to throw the slant into Julian Edelman behind it. Oh, yep, that's it. Bingo.
That's what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. That's really crazy that he's able to do that. Well, maybe it seems crazy, but it's cool to think like, man, if I just studied film, like I don't know how many hours takes him to figure all this crap out during the week, but like, if you just watch enough film, you can predict these. You can just see how the team lines up and figure out what's going on. It's pretty eye opening to see what you can learn about a team just from how they line up, having an idea what they're going to do. Whereas I know film study is always a thing that's like, oh, you got to study film. Or to you and I, or to the average, to anybody that's not on a team and doesn't do film study, that's just a thing that you do, and I don't know, it works or helps. We don't fully understand it, but that's like, it's really cool. As Tony Romo's like, well, obviously he's studying film. He's not just making this stuff up. He's not just guessing. Where that's like a manifestation, like, hey, because you watch film, here's what you're able to pick out, before it happens and stuff.
Right. Exactly. I mean, stuff, it all happens in almost a fraction of a second, but if you study film, like he kind of did in the broadcast, I mean, he's able to break these things down completely before they even happen. And that's kind of what happens. Did you watch the Brett Coleman video on Sean Payton, Eagles play design?
Yes, I did.
I thought that was a pretty good example of where film study really, the manipulation of film study. Pretty much, I mean, not to get into I don't really want to get into the nitty gritty with the Brett Coleman video, but essentially what happened was the Eagles had this pretty cool play, and they utilized it, I think, a couple of times through
yeah, it was
the
only
course
like
of this.
Twice they even ran it. There was like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But it was off a very specific or very unique motion. And then the Saints just stole that motion but ran a counter off of it.
Yeah. And Well, was it the Rams? Was it the Rams against the Eagles? Rams against
it was the Saints against the Eagles.
It was the Saints. Yeah, never mind. I don't
Yeah,
know
because they took the Eagles. They stole the Eagles. They stole the motion from the Eagles. So obviously they were going to recognize what's going on, and then they faked the screen and ran a wheel behind it.
Yeah.
With one of the guys that was supposed to be blocking.
Yeah.
That's how the dude got so wide ass open, and was like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. So yeah, film's cool, man.
It was wild. It was, they know that they're studying these looks, these tells that they're giving them, and just ran a counter to it. Yeah.
Do the old bamboozle to them or whatever.
Yeah. The old hoodwink.
Doing me a heckin' bamboozle there, friend. No, I will. Okay, not to toot my own horn here, but watching that Saints Rams game, I was like, oh, they like lined up for one play. I'm like, oh, that tight end that's lined up on the left side, he's coming across and he's gonna kick out the end of the tackle or whatever, and they're running, inside to the right, and then they did it. I was like, oh, hell yeah. It wasn't because I watched film. I was just like, oh, that tight end's like sitting way back in his stance. So I was like, yes. I was looking for things and I was seeing things. And then I kept looking the rest of the game, and I didn't have any other things. I was like, oh, I know what's
that was the
here.
moment.
I had one the entire day.
It's more than most people, honestly. More than what I do.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Just flexing on you.
Yeah, that was the AFC Championship. So
one other thing, just that overtime drive where they had those 3 3rd and 10s. I mentioned this briefly a little bit ago. That to me, it felt like that the Eagles Saints game from last week, where it was like every third down on one of those in that 15-minute drive that Saints had. It kind of felt like that, where just like every third down was like third and medium, third and long. It was like, oh, Michael Thomas is going to get the ball at the sticks. Where that's what it was. It was like the 3 3rd and 10s, and it was, oh, we're going to throw it over the middle to Julian Edelman, who's going to get like 12 yards, and they'll get a first down. Oh, they're going to throw it to Gronk, and they just kept the whole time. I'm like, oh, maybe they'll hold. They just need one stop. Just need, as a defense, as an NFL defense, you figure you can luck into one stop, right? Somehow, some way, either by there's a bad ball or a drop or a tip pass, or somehow something happens where on a long enough drive the offense will just do something, just kind of beat themselves, kind of bend but don't break philosophy or mantra, but nope, didn't happen.
Nope.
So
yeah, you're right. It did feel like that, where it was like, man, there's no way this offense can keep chunking out these yards like this, but they did.
Mm-hmm. Someday this Patriots dynasty is going to end. I think it's going to end someday.
Dude, maybe.
I'm not convinced.
After watching the playoffs, man, it's like I'll admit I was a doubter. I didn't think the Patriots were going to be able to beat the Chargers. I was proven wrong.
They fucking wrecked them, man.
And
they by and large wrecked the Chiefs, and they did in the first half, and then made it happen and got it done in the second half. But
they put the finishing touches on it. It'll be interesting to watch what happens, man. I mean,
because there's a chance that all three, that Gronk probably is for sure going to retire, I think. Brady maybe, probably not, and then if those two go, you think Belichick might go too. So I doubt it, but we'll see.
Dude, something about watching the Patriots just like implode as an organization would just be extremely cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't really ever want to be that person that like wishes, that a team would just be bad, because it's like, I don't know. I think I can put energy in more useful areas than just hoping that a team is just shitty, and a fan base is sad when they watch football. But like, man, this dynasty has just lasted forever. Like, they have just been good for a very, very long time. And
The Super Bowl they won was what, 2001, 2002?
2001, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so 18 years.
It's
The
wild.
Patriots dynasty can vote.
Yeah.
They can buy cigarettes or whatever.
Oh my god.
No, yeah, it's crazy. It'll probably never happen again. And for that reason, I kind of want them to win the Super Bowl just because in 20 years, when this is all ancient history, it's like, yep, I was alive. I can be that. And like, man, I got to see that thing from start to finish, and it was great. And it'll be like when people look back and talk about the Steelers in the 70s or the 49ers in the 80s. Oh, Bill Walsh was this great guy, or had this crazy offense that they ran, and oh man, they're so ahead of their time, and they're really great, and yada yada yada. It was all whatever. After the fact, everybody will look back fondly and be like, man, those were some really great teams. Not like now where it's like, oh my god, fuck this team, I hate the Patriots.
Right, exactly. I mean, everybody shits on them just because, obviously you want your team to win.
Yeah, it's all I mean, it's a lot of jealousy, and then it's just people being dumb sports fans. That's what we do.
It's like the LeBron thing.
Yeah.
Just like hate LeBron for the sake of hating him. Just like no real reason.
Well, yeah, didn't a lot of people hate Kobe when he played? Now it's, Kobe's great. Kobe was a...
Like no, Kobe was an asshole. Like,
yeah. Well, like Alex
he was
Rodriguez,
really good.
Alex Rodriguez is done a complete 180 and is like, I think how people think about him now he's out of the game. So it's like everybody hates you when you're in it, but once you're done, it's like, we can all sing Kumbaya and be friends and talk about the good old days.
What a good run you had.
Or like when the Warriors, and it's all the same thing. When that thing comes tumbling down, it's like, man, they won however many titles, and they had all these crazy shooters, and it was super teams and whatever. It was awesome. Instead of like, it's all bad, and all they do is shoot threes, and they don't play defense, and nobody takes charges.
Ruining the integrity of the game.
One and dones.
Yeah, whatever. honestly, whatever.
Shoot it from half court.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait to transition into like I follow basketball on like Reddit. That's pretty much it. But I can't wait to talk intelligently about playoff NBA games. I'm excited. All these players like barely know these guys, but I can't wait to provide some insightful analysis.
Boy, the Denver Nuggets are going to be a playoff team. They have is Nikola Jokic on that team? I think that's a guy.
They Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, yeah. Little boy.
Man, they're like the Denver Nuggets are like second in.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They're
What about
playing
the
real
Mavericks?
well.
What about Luka Doncic?
He's
They good?
playing well, I think. I think Luka is like a stud, but I don't think that the Dallas Mavericks as a whole are anything to write home about.
Oh, we get to talk about the Bucks.
The Bucks. Bucks
Man,
and fucking Bucks and 2.
Yeah, right. No, isn't this crazy? Like, this year feels like, at least to me, feels like, the Packers were bad again. That's the headline. And it's not that the Brewers were a game away from the World Series and the Bucks are, pretty good and are contenders for probably. Like, that seems all back. That's all like, all that other stuff. Those other things.
You're right.
Also, baseball sucks and whatever.
Dude,
I don't know. I'm not a huge...
AmFan Stadium.
Oh, R.I.P. to whatever. I'm not like super nostalgic for Miller Park, but that AmFam Stadium just doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
No. Sounds a little less like Wisconsin and a little more like corporate America. Mm-hmm. But what are you gonna do?
I don't know. It's money. Whatever. I had no idea the naming rights were up around Miller Park, and All right. Funny story. So when Miller Park first opened, I think it was 2001 or somewhere around then, whatever. But so me being 5 or 6 years old, I was over at my friend's house or one of my neighbor's house. We were watching the first game at Miller Park, I think, and they're like, "Oh, I'm rooting for the Brewers." I don't remember who they were playing, but they're rooting for the Brewers. I'm like, "Oh, you're rooting for the Brewers? I'm rooting for the Millers." Because I thought Miller Park, that's where the Millers play, right?
I'm rooting for the Millers.
I don't know how stadium names or sports worked. I was just a dumb kid. I thought, Bradley Center, the Bradleys play there. Lambeau Field, the Lambos. I don't know. Or do it the other way, where it's Packers Stadium. That's the name of it. But yes, I don't have a ton of memories specifically from when I was 5 or 6, but I very distinctly remember watching that on a tube TV in the basement at my neighbor's house and thinking to myself, I don't think I said it out loud because I think I was embarrassed, but I was like, oh, well, I'm rooting for the Millers. Uh-oh. We might have trouble here.
I'm
then I
rooting
learned
for the Millers.
Then I learned.
Well, no child in their basement is going to make the same mistake after these naming rights expire.
I'm rooting for the American Family Insurances, the fighting insurance claim adjusters.
Yeah, it's kind of okay. So
instead of Bernie Brewer going down the slide, back in the day they had him sliding down into a big mug of beer. He's gonna slide down into a big stack of paperwork.
A big pile of claims. He's gonna slide down and a lawyer's gonna catch him.
He's just gonna slide down and then take a picture of a dented car on his phone. Instead of the sausage race, it's gonna be people filling out filling out a claim or something on a table.
People everybody's chasing after this insurance check. We get 4 people. We burned your houses down. There's one insurance check. Whoever wins the race gets it.
It's you have instead of the sausage race, you have competing advertisements between personal injury attorney David Gruber and the insurance company. Where you have a fucking boxing match. They bring out a ring and they do a quick 30-second sparring match between innings.
Man, that'd be a great tradition to start. Is it the Braves that have the track star guy, the Freeze?
I don't know what you're talking. I don't know. There's
this dude that is he's like a sprinter and he races people around and he gives them a huge head start and he's like I don't think he's an Olympic sprinter, but I think he was trying to be an Olympic sprinter. He's pretty fast though. He'd give people a huge lead off and then he'd sprint after him and he'd usually catch them. Felt like a carnival game. Like watching it, it's just like this game looks too good to be true, and it is. Anyway, what I was gonna say before is that I was talking to one of my friends about. So it's getting renamed into AmFam Stadium or whatever, American Family Insurance Park, and so it was like, yeah, it doesn't have the same ring as Miller Park, but. How many famous stadiums are there that do have just a corporate name and it's their name. It's what they're known for. It's pretty well known. Like the Staples Center.
Yeah.
Or like AT&T Stadium. Not really the same thing, but
Staples Center is better. Yeah, I get what you're saying here.
I can't think of very many good examples though.
Mercedes-Benz Superdome. No. That's just the Superdome. Hard Rock Stadium. No. Shoot. There's There's one that's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't quite place it. That
MetLife Stadium?
No, not MetLife. Not the Met. Nah, because that would just be the Meadowlands. Oh gosh, well, I guess so. U.S. Cellular Park in Chicago, the White Sox Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, that people would just refer to that the Cell, but that got changed to something. I think Fifth Third Bank Stadium or something. So that was one that had that's one like Staples Center that I thought had a nice ring to it and kind of had its own fun abbreviation. I always thought Minute Maid Park, the Houston Astros Stadium, I always thought that was kind of funny
That's a good one.
because it was like, oh, they made it in a minute. No, it's like juice. It's like juice concentrate or something.
Oh, well, I'm cheering for the Minute Maids.
Or the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. That just sounds baseball. But I think Great
Sounds
American.
definitely like a pastime.
Yeah, but I think Great American's like a hot dog brand or something.
Oh.
It's something. I was disappointed when I found that out. They just didn't name it that. That's also kind of like if they just decided like, hey, this is a ballpark and we're just gonna call it Great American Park, and it doesn't have corporate background. I was like, well, that's pretty, that's pretty forward of you. Yeah, this is good. This is a good statement. Oh, Busch Stadium in St. Louis.
Oh.
That's kind of the corporately sponsored name that has a nice way about it.
Yeah.
Good St. Louis, an iconic St. Louis products and brand.
It's a pretty well-known one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, in any case, yeah. So anyway,
University of Phoenix Stadium. There you go. There's one for you to chew on. I think
Great.
I think that place just got renamed also.
Did it?
I think it did. I have to check. Let's see. Searching University of Phoenix. Can I get my master's? Yeah, it's State Farm Stadium now. More insurance.
Oh, insurance.
Like a good neighbor. American Family Insurance is there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess the only other thing I had this link to biggest surprises in the NFC in 2018 from PFF's website. We really don't need to run down this whole list of things, but
Who's on the list?
I mean, it had some pretty cool stuff, like, Mark Ingram never became a factor after returning from suspension, which was true. He had his big ol' coming home party game where he ran for like 100 yards, and then that was pretty much it. Matt Stafford ended the year as quarterback 20 in fantasy.
Yeah, that's low.
Saquon
Barkley better than expected, yeah.
Yeah, a team traded a first-round pick midseason for Amari Cooper. Yeah,
and it paid off, and I think that was the right choice.
Right. David Johnson failed to reach 1,000 yards despite playing 16 games. Calvin Ridley had 10 touchdowns, which was only one behind people like DeAndre Hopkins. Only 5 behind Antonio Brown, who is the leader in receiving touchdowns. He's up there. Man. None of the Bears receivers eclipsed 800 yards receiving. I don't know if that was a surprise. I don't know.
I don't know if these are surprises, but just things that make you go, huh.
Yeah, I mean, stuff that you didn't think would necessarily happen when the season began. We sort of talked about this last week, reminiscing on the season at the outset of fantasy, right after the draft happens. But yeah, it's stuff to look back on, and it's like, yeah, when the 2018 season began, I certainly didn't think Adrian Peterson was going to be an RB2 for the Redskins.
But lo and behold, here we are.
Exactly. And then I linked to, we have a free agency spotlight from PFF that they provide. It's kind of a nice little utility. I was looking at it a little earlier today. It looks like they're going to highlight and at least do a brief write-up of all the free agents, at least the notable ones, I think, from this upcoming offseason. They did a couple of write-ups already, but they're doing some write-ups on everybody that's going to be heading into the offseason. Possibly looking for a new team or a new contract from their current team. A lot of interesting people on that list. So, definitely we'll be talking about this and, probably referring back to this when people start to get signed here in the offseason or, the things start to move and shake.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, you're a big gridiron. Shoot, what's that? Damn it. What's that 1 minute animated thing of the Bleacher Report? Gridiron Heights. Jesus Christ. Did you watch the one this week?
No.
Oh. Clear eyes, full hearts, Pro Bowl. It's like Adrian Peterson is like. It was a running back. So somebody, it doesn't matter who, I guess, but they're like, oh man, Camping World Stadium, this is where they play the Citrus Bowl. Wow.
Man, Gridiron Heights is so funny.
Man, I haven't watched a lot of them, but they're real short, but man, there's a lot in there. The couple that I've watched.
The way they characterize Pat Mahomes in Gridiron Heights is so funny. They overemphasize his Kermit the Frog voice.
Yeah.
He just kind of talks like this. And he's really erratic.
Or don't they do there's one with Lamar Jackson where they had a 3-year-old voice him? This super high pitched voice.
All of these rookies, they have children.
Actual small children.
Yeah, I like that. They do a great job.
Hell yeah.
Oh, is that it?
Man, I think that's it.
Hell yeah.
This has been Definitely the Experts. Follow us on Twitter at whatever our Twitter handle is. Facebook, the YouTubes, Patreon, Instagram. You get it.
Follow us and everything. We appreciate it. All
Much
the support.
obliged.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Bye.